I want to lose weight and it's hard.
And it's hard? Just say that.
No, just change that one word.
Okay.
Because when we say but, it's like I want to lose weight but it's hard, it means I can't do it because it's difficult. But if I start to say I want to lose weight and it's hard, I acknowledge the difficulty, but I can bring that difficulty along as I continue to go towards the realistic goal of losing weight. If you replace your buts with and, it can start to change your life.
The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and not necessarily those of WKTV Community Media.
Hello, West Michigan. This is Grand Tap Media Business TV. My name is Pamela Keim, your host. The spirit of the show is to introduce West Michigan to all the businesses, individuals, and nonprofits that can help us thrive in our lives and business. We have a very special guest for you today. This is part 2 interview with Dr. Eddie O'Connor. He is going to be talking about the importance of sleep, habits, overcoming your fear of communication and public speaking. So I want you to welcome to the show, Dr. Eddie O'Connor.
Big perfectionist.
How is that? Because I do realize that I was told years ago, don't hire a perfectionist because they don't. I didn't get this, right? I said, well, why? When they would interview the process, right? I'm a perfectionist. And all of a sudden I leave the room and, some of the leadership would say, well, you don't want to hire a perfectionist. I'm like, why? Why? What do they do to themselves?
I do. I wish there were more perfectionists around because, well, honestly, there's a high attention to detail. There's a great work ethic. They get great results.
They do.
The
They're
research
usually
does
top
show
of the class.
The grades are higher. All of that is true. And so I like to tweak it and I call it being a perfect perfectionist because there's just one shift that's needed. Like you want to have that high standard of excellence. But let me tell you that if you're going to strive for perfection, it's how you relate to your mistakes. Well, they're unacceptable. See, that's the problem, because nobody's gotten anywhere. You have never learned anything without making a mistake.
How do you know it was a mistake? Maybe it was a redirection or you're going down the wrong path. I always tell people, I always say sometimes you're not smart enough to know that that's a mistake.
In some ways, yeah.
Yes, because a lot of times most people that have achieved or went a different avenue saying if it wasn't for this or this, I would have never went and met, this person or, went to this event because I felt like didn't have anything else doing that night because my girlfriend broke up with me. Do you understand? Or my boyfriend.
Yeah.
There's a difference in saying I want that career than experiencing that career and say I really don't want what it takes.
Well, let me roll it back here a second,
Yes.
because I don't typically find perfectionism in life choices. Usually we're talking about perfectionists in the sense that, oh, you know what, I missed that free throw. And that's unacceptable, and they beat themselves up, and they're miserable about it. So then, because they're afraid to miss another free throw, they don't put themselves in a position to get fouled. Or if I missed the three-point shot, I don't take the three-point shots anymore.
Again, yeah,
and so
I would say that.
We often do the avoidance with perfectionists, where it's like, well, I don't want to risk making the mistake, so I back myself up. And so continuing with that line, I say, then you're actually moving yourself further from perfection. As much as you're striving to protect and be perfectionistic, by you not doing the things and willing to make a mistake, you're actually being less and less perfect.
Correct.
So the mistakes that you make, well, I missed that three-point shot. Okay, well, how do I learn from that? What did I do? Did I not jump high enough? Did I take it too much? Was I not open? There's something to learn from every mistake that we make. And those are mistakes, because unless you're winning every race, running as fast as humanly possible, making great decisions all the time, we are making tons of mistakes all the time in service of achieving the excellence that we want. And that's the flavor that we want of becoming a perfect perfectionist. How do I relate to the mistakes in service of growth so that I could actually be more perfect?
Correct. Sitting across from you, you're meeting with your new client or whatever. What are you asking them? Are you asking them what they do all day, what their habits are, time management? What are you looking for to see where, because your habits really reflect your life. Yeah. Right? And so what kind of questions do you ask them? Because if you were,
well, maybe the biggest one would be, are your behaviors and your actions during the day matching your expectations? So if you're telling me that you want to win, but you're playing 2 hours of, PlayStation and an hour on TikTok, and you're not really going to all your practices, but yet you want to win a state championship, I'd say, well, let's kind of balance this. Now, I'm not saying that you have to do all of those things. It's not about driving, pushing, but it's a matter of matching up, well, what level of success do I want given how much I'm willing to work? And I would say many of my questions have to do with matching up their expectations with their willingness to work. And if you want more, well, then you have to work more and feel more and maybe suffer more. Not in a negative way, but again, in service of the goals that you want, because winning is just too hard.
Well, yeah, and that's one thing about sports. And you deal with, so share with me a little bit. I know you work with students and adults. I mean, what do you see difference of the students, like they don't have all the responsibility as an adults do? I will say that. Some may, but no, mortgages, family, whatever. So what do you see with their, what are they like when they hire you? And my son was a state, all-state runner. You were a runner. Mm-hmm. I heard that in one of your interviews. So and he really had to give up. He would walk in the door at 9:30, and his coach said he had to be at bed at 10. Yeah. The day before meet, sure. Right? And he was in bed by 10 o'clock. He would not watch TV. We'd be all downstairs, whatever. And he ate certain things, and he really had to go down that road to become a state level, Division A, which they're the best of the best throughout the state, or Division I. So when they said, I want a state champion, or I want to be a better basketball player.
Yeah, I would say that most of them are coming into me, they're coming to see me because they are very, very serious about it.
Okay.
And I don't really tell them, because I just kind of reflect what the reality is. So I'm not going to go there and give you a lecture and say, you got to do this, and drive and push.
Okay.
Really my goal is to kind of say, hey, I'm going to get you where you want to go. Let's first decide, do you really want to go here? Because this is going to cost you something. Now, I would say most of the athletes will decide and say, yeah, and we'll go little by little, or sometimes a lot by a lot. And they didn't know, like, for example, sleep is a big one. Sleep is the #1 performance enhancer. So again, another point to the people out there.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
7 to 9 hours if you're an adult, 8 to 10 if you're an adolescent, and get up on the higher end of it if you're an athlete, because there is nothing that's going to improve your performance more than getting a solid sleep every single night.
Well, when you say that, and I've talked to other people, you should be, get up earlier, right? Do certain things. Like, what do you think of that? I mean, get up earlier. Even though you go to bed, these people are getting. I used to get up. My son got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, ran before school. And maybe he was hindering his performance by doing that. But he ran with, out there in the winters training for, track, because he was long distance. You have to have a lot of endurance in long distance. You know what I mean?
Well, talking about your college athletes, then sleep becomes even more important. So again, to roll it back, you were asking about, well, gosh, what do we do? Because sometimes we've got ice time at 5 a.m. or running at 5 a.m. We've got classes, we've got weightlifting sessions, we've got late travel. I just can't sleep. And I would say, the world's not going to help you sleep.
No. They'll keep you distracted.
They will keep you distracted. The culture is really one, and let's talk about adults in the corporate workplace. The first one into the office and the last one to leave. And there's this macho, or this praise that we give people who are just grinding and sleeping 5 hours a night.
Hustling is the word.
And it's just wrong.
You don't see him 20 years with health issues, right?
Well, but we also know that if you actually want better performance, why would you be depleting your brain, which is necessary to make decisions, which is, you're going to increase your mistakes, you're going to be less, you might feel like you're working a lot, but you're not going to be working as effectively or as good. So what I'd like to offer to those that are struggling to get some sleep, and say have all these reasons,
because you have that,
we've
right?
got early practices and stuff. What I would say is that you got to work around it. So I have one athlete, for example, that goes to bed as early as he can, but has at 5 o'clock weightlifting. Mm-hmm. And so what we've been able to work is say, well, where during your classes can you then take a 90-minute nap? This is all hard to do.
I know.
But if you're going to go through life and want it to be easy, you're not going to get any results. And we have to make room for the difficulty. So yeah, you've got a job that says that you have to get up early. You've got somebody that says that you have to work out earlier in the morning. Then that means it's going to be hard. If you want to get and prioritize your 8 hours, then you have to go to bed earlier. Oh, but that's when I relax. Okay. This is when you say, what do I tell them? I'm not going to force you to go to bed.
Right.
But I'm just going to keep telling you the science.
The benefits of it.
You have a choice. We all have choices. And we don't. Here's the other thing that gets me. Everybody's great, everything's wonderful, everybody's, amazing. No, let's respect excellence. Excellence means that you are far above everybody else.
Correct. And it's your habits.
And it's fine if you want to be average. There's nothing wrong with being average. Average is a nice life, balanced. You know, I'm good here, 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 and here, content. It's a wonderful way to live.
Yes, it is.
But
Yeah,
if you want to
sometimes.
be a state champion, a national champion, Olympic, you can't have a balanced life. You want to make a lot of money and be really successful and top of your career, you're going to have to pull from other parts of your life and invest it. So I'm going off on a tangent here, but
I do get it.
But this whole idea about work-life balance, I don't believe in it.
No.
I mean, you can if you want to be okay and everything, but if you want to excel somewhere, it's got to come from something else. And so if you're going to take it from A, then Z, is going to suffer.
You're moving away from the tribe. We all have this little circle of friends, and then you start reaching those peak performance, and you start moving, and you get drawn into another people at that level. You understand that, right? It's kind of like climbing a mountain. Come on up higher. Come on up higher. And the benefits of besides the performance, the opportunities, the people you meet, all that kind of stuff. Like my little, this is scary to move away from people that you normally hung out with all the time, and then you realize you can't hang out with those. You have to if you want to reach this level. Am I making sense? People get.
It's really incredibly important. I've read research that says you'll make the average of what the top 5 people you hang out with make.
Right.
I mean, if you're surrounding yourself with people who make, say, $30,000 a year, you're going to get $30,000 ideas.
These are your
You hang
friends.
around with millionaires, you're going to get $1 million ideas.
Correct.
If you hang around with people who are smoking and drinking, you're going to probably pick up those behaviors. If you're hanging out with a bunch of CrossFitters, you're probably going to lift some weight. And we can't get into the nuances and be like, cut all everybody negative out of your life. And well, that's my
Right.
brother. I don't want to,
Yeah,
just
you
let
have
him
to-
go. Set boundaries. Because if they're bringing you down, it's your responsibility for your life. And you get to choose who you spend your time with and where. And you bring into that, well, how much love do I want to show, how much compassion, etc. But at the same time, if you're being hurt, you have to decrease that relationship to protect yourself.
What about emotional control? Is there such a thing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there is, and I suggest more people have it.
I hate it when I get upset over stupid things. I hate it that I overreacted. I hate it I didn't keep my mouth shut, and I blurted. Even today, everybody's got a, opinion about everything. Well, what is emotional control? What does that look like?
So, another word for emotional control might be poise, and the way I like to define that would be, you have emotional control when you continue to act in a way that moves you towards the things that you value. That you do not let your emotions dictate your behaviors. So we've all had kids or something like that, and you say, hey, why did you hit your brother? Well, he made me mad.
Yeah.
It's like, to the child, like, that makes complete sense. And as the parent, you're like, well, you can't do that. It's like, well, why did you steal that car? Well, because I wanted it. Well, that doesn't work. Right? And so we know that for a lot of things, but then in other occasions, we get angry and we do lash out at our spouse or somebody else. We yell. We don't feel like working out, so we skip it. So there are these other parts where our emotions dictate what we do. And it's very important to realize that our actions are independent of what we think and feel. For example, let me ask you, without any details, if you did everything that ever crossed your mind, if you responded to every urge you've ever had in your life, where would you be right now?
Disaster. Probably jail.
Right. I get
Right.
dead or in jail from everybody.
I can't just hit somebody because I'm mad. I
Right.
can't.
So here's the good news. You're already fantastic at not doing what your thoughts and feelings that automatically pop up tell you to do. All day, every day, we're not doing it. I don't want to get out of bed almost any morning when my alarm clock goes off. I don't want to stick to the diet that I stick to stay in shape. I don't want to be nice to some people who are mean to me, but I try to do all of these things all the time, every day. And that's practicing the emotional control. So when you have those emotions come up, it's a matter of being able to say, who's the person that I'm striving to become? Is it a loving person, a more patient person, somebody who leads with kindness or honesty? Really, if you can take some time and understand who is it that you want to be? What do I value in this particular relationship, or what do I want to get accomplished in this sport? What kind of teammate do I want to be? What kind of discipline do I want to show in my life? And if you can hold on to it here and let that be your guide, then you have to understand that the emotions that show up are not a justification to do what you want or to follow them.
That is very hard, and it's always hard to not overreact. and
You
or
keep
not
saying-
beat
can
your
I
heels.
interrupt you? You keep saying that. It's hard. It is hard. But hard is not an excuse. And I want to give people compassion here and understand that this is difficult. And it does take training. It's why people hire me and I work with people, because it does take skill development and practice. You're not wrong if you flip out because you're emotional. I still do at times. I just hope that year by year I get better at it, because these emotional skills are just that. They can be skills that can be practiced and trained. So give yourself some patience, but just please don't expect it to be easy.
No, and I should have used another word for that, because I am self-sabotaging myself, correct? But I will tell people that want to change their life. Let's example, I will say a lot of people struggle with weight, or they put on some during COVID, because we didn't do anything but sit at home. And now losing 20 pounds is hard. You have to change your habits. And what do you do with those what do you say? What do you do with the habits?
I got it for you.
Good.
I want to lose weight, but it's hard. Right? You'd agree with that, right? Change this. I want to lose weight, and it's hard.
And it's hard to say that?
No, just change that one word.
Okay.
Because when we say but, it's like I want to lose weight, but it's hard, it means I can't do it because it's difficult.
Got
but
it.
if I start to say I want to lose weight and it's hard, I acknowledge the difficulty, but I can bring that difficulty along as I continue to go towards the realistic goal of losing weight. If you replace your buts with and, it can start to change your life.
I was told that it's better to say yet. I'm not at my performance yet. Helps your brain rethink it. So I did a whole public speaking on that one, right?
Yeah.
So just saying that, I haven't, we haven't moved into our new home yet that we want, and they said they have done a science research on it, and I did a whole Toastmasters contest speech on that yet, and here I am. I find it difficult to use that word yet. I need on that one.
Yeah, because you're growing, and this is where I say, give yourself the compassion and understand that. Great, you've just listed in this interview a whole bunch of things that you can work on. That's awesome.
Yeah, sure.
That's awesome. Bring me back in a year and let's see how you did.
All right, so we're looking at 2022. When you're talking to, let's give some people that are sitting there maybe struggling with some mental health, and maybe it's like you have said, it could be just normal for what we've gone through in the last 2 years. So don't kick yourself that you probably are not alone, and where you're stuck and you want to move to a different level. Do you know what I'm saying? You may be stuck in your career, you need to redo your career, and maybe you didn't pivot like you were supposed to, and you just kind of held back. I'm like, I'm just going to see what happens, which a lot of people did. They're like, I don't want to make a move right now. I don't want to wait. We're going to relax. And now they're sitting there. What can you give them to help them, and how can they reach out to you? And you help them if they really are seriously about changing their future.
Well, the hairs on the back of my neck went up when you were like, well, I didn't pivot like I should have, right? So that word should is something I don't like my clients to use, because I'm like, again, when we say should, all it does is it brings guilt and shame to us.
It does. It feels awful.
And it's like, okay, maybe you wish you did something differently, but there's not a should. I mean, during the last 2 years, people could have done any number of things, and I wouldn't fault anybody for any of them. If you took time away and you just decompressed, that's been great for some people. And so maybe you learned 3 languages, and that's wonderful, but you didn't have to go ahead and all of a sudden, oh, I'm not at work, I got locked out, so I'm going to rebuild my deck. Everybody had a freedom to do some things, and sometimes people didn't have freedom and they were just struggling.
Correct.
So I'd like to start you off by saying, accept where you're at. Like, you're here because of the choices that you made, because of the things that happened to you and the way you had to respond. Maybe you liked the way you responded, maybe you didn't, but the point is this is where you're at. We have to accept what's gone on. We can't regret it anymore. Yeah.
Okay, now I want to talk about something about, I am involved with Toastmasters International, and I've been involved with it since 2014, and I believe that public speaking is probably one of the most fearful things people find themselves. And I know you do a lot of public speaking, but the and then building the strong communication skills, presentation. Now that we're suffering with Zoom, it's going to be, not suffering, but it's going to be part of our life.
It is.
Even after we get back into it. I want you to share a little bit. For those, I am very adamant about getting your communication skills up fighting that fear of public speaking and building that skill up, because I think it's the best way to help your career, even no matter what you're doing, even just sitting here talking to you. Can you share what you did? You know, were you afraid of public speaking? Do you work with people that have been afraid of getting up in front of an audience? Or I know you've been a part of probably a keynote, and or you've been MC. So share.
Yeah. So I would say that the biggest thing, and I learned this early in grad school, and it was after my first presentation. It's about the message. Like once I realized, like, so the story was I had to present my first academic conference. I was presenting my master's thesis, and I had it all written out, and I wrote it, and I read it, and my advisor goes, "Okay, now throw that away."
Oh, really?
And tell me about
okay.
your dissertation or about your master's, and he said it this way, he goes, because nobody knows more about it than you do.
Okay.
And so that really stuck with me. And so that one aspect of getting it right in the presentation and saying the right words, none of that mattered. He was like, have a conversation with me. Tell me about your dissertation. And I never ever had notes for presentations after that, 25 years ago. The second big thing is that anytime I become self-conscious about how I'm doing, it's not about me. I love public speaking because I get an opportunity to tell hundreds, thousands more. It's about the information that I'm giving.
Right. You're giving valuable information.
This has nothing to do with me.
Right.
It doesn't matter. I literally do not matter in these conversations. So if I'm on stage and I've got a lot of people to talk to, it's not about all the people that I have to talk to and what they're thinking about me. No, it's about the message. Do I know the message? And I get up there and hey, I can't wait to tell you about this. Like, there's something you need to know. And I will look at one person at a time out of 1,000, and I'm just talking to you, and I'm talking to you, and I'm talking to you, and I'm talking to you.
Do you focus on one person when you're up there?
Yeah, and my eyes are darting around. Like,
Okay.
I'm just talking to one person 1,000 times.
Oh, I've learned to focus on that one. But I had the tight throat, years ago, and I have a tendency to talk too fast, or I jump and don't finish my sentence. I do realize that. But how much do you practice on? Because you're a natural. I've seen you speak. I've looked at some of your videos. You're very much natural. Is that like, do you do like a routine? Because public speaking is very scary for people, and they need to break that fear getting up there. Not everybody's going to be at your level, but one day you can't believe the opportunities that come your way. It's like you walk into a meeting and somebody that was supposed to take over, and they didn't show, or they had a sick child or whatever, and it could be your opportunity of a lifetime to get up there and say, you have is public speaking.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, I can help over
It's
with
performance.
that because it's
It's
another
performance.
area of performance. And again, I'll double down on the idea that sometimes I'll write it out. Like when my parents died, I wanted to be sure that I had the exact words. I didn't want to ad lib, knowing that I could be really emotional. I could go off and I could forget things that I wanted to say. So that was one that I would say I didn't practice, but I wrote out and I reread in my head a lot. So I will do a lot of mental imagery, which is a skill that I use with athletes, mental rehearsal.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily go up and practice my slides and say it out loud over and over again. But when I'm putting together a presentation, I'm constantly thinking about the words that I'm using. And it goes back to, again, the message. What's the point that I want to get across? So every presentation that I do, even if it's the same presentation, it's always different because I'm always doing it in the moment.
Okay.
But it's about the message. Because if there's more of the message, then there's less of me. It's really about that focus. It's like, what do I want to communicate? At the funeral, I wanted to communicate these principles of love or representing my parents well. So I wrote it out, and I did that. I wasn't worried about what people were going to think because that's irrelevant to the speech.
Correct. I did my dad's eulogy. I was too afraid at my mom's. That was 1998. My dad died in 2019, and I've come a long way. And many people do. They get to the point where, and I'm sure you've seen this, maybe in their 20s, they're just fumbling along. In their 30s, they start picking up. And then they meet somebody like you, and they get into, and then that's when the gap starts to change. And you start to see people, even in your own family, people that you didn't give a lot of credit to, that just stayed the course, did what they needed to do behind the scenes, and all of a sudden they start to emerge. And I always tell people, I never rule out people. I go, you just wait. You see, the people that you think are on top right now in your 20s, you will check them out in their 40s and 50s, and you probably see that too. You hire somebody or like yourself, I want the next 10 years to be different. And I did the same thing. I wanted 2014, now we're getting close to that, to be different. And by God, it is different. But that was from doing the work, doing like the practicing. I practice in a mirror and when I do my speeches, and I say them over and I kind of get ideas. But you know, it's almost never what you think it is.
And it's often better when it's more organic in that way. I mean, even you and I said we're going to script things. What I say, I was like, let's just have a conversation.
Correct.
And I hope it went well.
Yes, yes. I think it's overcoming your fear of public speaking, because one day you may be doing that, like your parents' eulogy. They deserve that. They deserve you to get up there and speak on their behalf and say the truth, and who this person was, or maybe your sibling, maybe somebody. You know, we're all getting up there. I want to be there to be able to say, this is what my dad meant to me. I was too afraid when my mom died, and other people did it, and they didn't do it the way I wanted to do. But how many opportunities you missed by being afraid.
And the one thing that I love that you had said was the long term. So in my Success Stories membership, it's an online platform where, again, high achievers come in to get better. And you had this like 10-year plan, which suggests to me, you're like, watch what happens. Like, look at this decade. So I like to talk about getting 1% better every day.
Okay.
It's not about a big change. Like, we always want to have these big outcomes. But it comes from one little tweak a day. Can I do this a little bit better? Can I be 1% better today than I was yesterday? If you're in the gym, it's one more repetition. You know, just how do I just get a little bit better every day? And then it's exponential over time, what that 1% becomes. And so breaking it down, your goals and your expectations for every day can be really be helpful over the long term. Because we can do 1% better.
And 1%, you won't believe how it just gets after 5 years or 6 years. These habits start to, I mean, I'm always amazed how things go quicker now than they did back in 2014. Sure. And what you had to do to implement that, like a speech, you get up and you say a 2-minute speech about yourself. You know how you go to those events? Who are you? Yeah. You know, well, you know what I'm saying? I'm Dr. Eddie O'Connor, and you only have 2 minutes. And then pretty soon it's, 5 and then 7, and pretty soon over perfection and people hearing you, hey, I love you, come to my meeting, whatever. And then you become the keynote. You're the MC. Mm-hmm. And that's what's changed. I can't explain it enough to people. And like I said, working with people like you, similar to yourself, or hanging out with people like that, and just gives me to keep going. Just keep trying, and don't worry about your last failures. Because to be honest, do people really remember that you bombed in a speech in 2014, that your keynote was terrible? Do you know what I'm saying? That up to your expectation, where you are now. Don't ever look back at what you did. Would you recommend that too?
Yeah, you suggest, which may be the best closing remark to make, is that if I were going to summarize all of sport and performance psychology into one thing, it would be this. When you're thinking about the outcome and what you want, refocus on the process that it takes to get there.
Correct.
That's where excellence comes from. When you can go all in the moment, into the process of doing the things it'll take to get you the outcome will take care of itself.
Then how they can reach you and what you can do for them, because a lot of people might really need to really reframe what they're doing in 2022 to have a different outcome.
Well, everything is located on my website at dreddieoconnor.com. What you can find on there is a free mental toughness in 60-second video series. I've got like 150 things on YouTube that are free. I've got a course, The Psychology of Performance, How to Be Your Best in Life. I'd like to highlight a workshop on sleep, as well as my Success Stories membership. Again, monthly membership where people who want to overcome obstacles to excellence and be their best more consistently have a community where we work together with online modules to go at your own pace. And if you do want individual sessions, I'm a licensed psychologist in Michigan, and I do telehealth. And so if you want that individual work, I can work one-on-one with you as well.
Well, being here today, when my friend says you want to learn about mental health and how to overcome and become a stronger person in the future, this was the guy they told me to reach out to. We want to thank you so much, Doctor,
Thanks.
for being
Appreciate
here
it.
today. This is Pamela Keim from Grantat Media Business TV, and we will catch you next time. Take care, everyone.
The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and not necessarily those of WKTV Community Media.